Hello and welcome to People and Profit. Today we're looking back at 2018 for businesses in France and forward to what 2019 might hold. Coming up, the Yellow Vest protests sent shockwaves through the French economy. Will the government's response be enough? And what does the crisis mean for France's image as a place to do business? 2018 saw many of President Macron's promised reforms come into force, but have his plans been derailed now by the demonstrations? And a bigger budget deficit, slower economic growth and more tax changes. What have French businesses got to look forward to in 2019? To discuss these topics and more, I'm joined in studio by David Keohane, Paris correspondent of the Financial Times, and two entrepreneurs based here in France, François Imbert, Chief Executive of the biotechnology company Fluigent, and Stone Atwine, who's the founder and CEO of mobile banking startup Eversend. Thank you to you all for being with us. David, I'm going to start with you. Is the Gilets jaunes Yellow Vest protest the story that we should remember in economic terms from 2018?
Yeah, clearly. I mean, it's the only story coming out of France that had a chance to battle against Brexit or Trump for kind of the attention of international investors or anybody reading newspapers. There was an unbelievable appetite for it and we can't get away from it. And the chances are that heading into January, we'll have to look at it again immediately.
And when it comes to the government response, it's got an awful lot of attention around the world for how the government has responded to this and whether or not it's a big change for the Macron government to have come up with these measures. Do you think it's as big as perhaps we've been told?
Yeah, I mean, for international investors, it's probably not that important so long as the government can keep going with its structural reform plans, right? So even before we had the response from Macron last week, international investors were ringing up saying what's going to happen. And strangely in France, you had people calling, I kind of sit between these people occasionally, and the French officials were calling up and saying, what would happen, for example, if we backtracked on the wealth tax? And it's clear that for international investors, there's some things that are just flags for what Mr. Macron stands for and what he can possibly offer France. The fact that Macron didn't backtrack on the wealth tax, the fact that he's saying he'll keep going on structural reforms, those things absolutely matter.
François Imbert, were you convinced by these measures?
So Fluigent is a French but a very international and innovative company. So we had some support in the innovation bit and funding bit. But of course our playground is the world. We are exporting in more than 40 countries and Fluigent is bringing the image of the French excellency in the world.
And when you look at the image question of whether or not, as a French business, you feel that the image of France as a place to invest is going to change, do you think that will change in your area or is it just not going to be affected?
I don't think so. I mean, we have a worldwide market. We are an innovative company. Biotech is growing markets. So this shouldn't affect us too much.
Okay. Stone Atwine, you're from Uganda, but you moved to France with your business after winning a French government competition for entrepreneurs. From your perspective, do you think that this is going to affect how France is viewed internationally?
No, I don't think, not massively, at least not in my field, like in technology or fields like that, like startups and that kind of business, because we kind of have a different perspective, which is different from the effect that this has on normal businesses or guys on the street or people who are investing in a shop or things like that. So for technology, really, we're not really affected, especially a business like mine that's focused on another continent altogether, but also even in Europe, we're focused on like African diaspora. So we don't really have shops or things like that. But I think it kind of affects very, at a small level, investment into the country, probably. But on the whole, it doesn't really affect us as a business, but doesn't really look good at the end of the day because of all the violence that's been happening.
And you're part of that ecosystem in the Station F startup hub, the biggest in the world. Is there the feeling there among entrepreneurs that I suppose this is just something that's not relevant to them because your companies are all at a stage where you're looking elsewhere?
Yes, I think so. Most of the companies, like the way we distribute our products, the way we, or the markets. The economy affects us at the end of the day if it's not going well, because people don't buy or people don't use your services, but at a very small level. So yeah, I think many entrepreneurs at Station F, or even people in tech generally, it's not really a very big effect that this has on them, but at the end of the day, like I said, it doesn't really look good.
David, we know that there are businesses who have been called by the president to get involved in contributing to the response to these measures and how much they're going to cost in particular. How important was it for the president to have those businesses with him as he made this decision?
It was important. I mean, it was almost a political gimme for the president. He got to say to the protesters, I'm going to step on the backs of business and get them to give you guys some money, be it with the banks freezing their fees for those on low incomes, or, I think he's also going to be talking to insurers to get them to do something similar. For the businesses, I mean, if you talk to them over the last few weeks, they were all worried about this. I think they know there's a price of doing business here, again, for keeping Macron's structural reform program going, for making sure that the economy kind of progresses at the rate they want it to. We might come back to this in a second, but the idea that it's already shaved off 0.1% of annual growth this year, it's significant. I mean...
do you think it'll slow down the pace of reforms from here on?
It could. I mean, in some ways it might actually accelerate it, though. I mean, there's two things. Macron has to prove to international investors that he can reform at the same speed he was going. And he also has to show people next year that he's looking out for them to get his popularity back to at some sort of reasonable level. These two things are kind of conjoined. If employment falls, if the rate of growth in France falls, let's say beneath 1.3%, you're going to start to see unemployment rise again. If you look at the kind of the economic picture in the Eurozone, it's not impossible that we might get that next year. And how Macron responds to that is going to be an almost defining thing for next year.
The bigger challenges ahead as well. France, you have more than 40 employees in your company as well, so you're kind of looking at this as also as an employer. We had changes come into effect in 2018 to labour law, for example, that were announced in 2017. Has this affected how you hire at all? Are you actively hiring for your business?
Yes, we are. Flugent is growing a lot. We have doubled the size of the company since the last 3 years. So hiring is a major point for us. Of course, having the right people, the right personalities, the good competencies, skills on board is critical for small companies. This is the drive for success.
And can you find people with those skills? Because this is something we hear sometimes from companies in specialised areas.
It's quite difficult to find the right people. I would say we are quite fortunate in France and in Paris with very high education, a very high research level. So this is helping a lot. And of course, we have to be attractive and gain these people. But we managed to hire 18 people this year in the company, and we are looking for continue on growing and hiring more people next year.
And do you feel supported in that endeavour with the measures that the government is taking?
So for now, I think this is yes. I don't know if it has a big impact on our business, but we continue on doing it.
Stone, your company's at an earlier stage, so I suppose these questions aren't perhaps arising for you just yet. But does that regulation is another issue that's going to affect financial technology, which is your area? Is regulation something that you're worried about changing? Are you confident that you're going to be able to deal with whatever might be coming?
No, I think we can deal with it. So that's not really a big deal for us. If you're in this game, like what we do, you just have to. It's a necessary thing. So we're not really worried about that. But what you talked about in regards to employment, that's also very critical for us, because bringing our business here in France, we were looking at the access to engineers, and France really does have great engineers at a good price. So that was something for us to look into. And I think the measures that were put in place that make it easier for us to hire and even to fire are really good measures for the economy, because that makes it easy for people to bring their business here, take advantage of the good engineers, and then take advantage of the good reforms that are happening. So I think generally it's been a good space for us. It's easier to hire now than it was a year ago.
And that's affecting your decisions to hire people?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, David, if we look ahead to 2019, then more big reforms on the way, do you think? Are there things in particular we should be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, reforms to unemployment insurance, maybe kind of actually telling us what they want to do with the pension system. Those are the two big ones for next year.
Controversial subjects,
Exactly,
never easy
right.
ones to reform in France. François, looking ahead to 2019, are you optimistic for your business?
Yes, a lot.
Have you a big goal that you're hoping to achieve?
So the big goal is really to penetrate what we call OEM, industrial industry, and to have one Fluent inside equipment in all the diagnostic, for example, diagnostic area. So yes, I am very optimistic and really wanted to accelerate our growth next year.
Okay, and Stone, you're heading towards a launch date in January.
Yeah.
Is that your big goal for 2019?
Yes, that is, and growth across the continent. So we have to make sure that maybe by the second half of 2019, we are in the big markets in Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in South Africa. So it's going to be a really big year for us. Next year, we'll be doing a lot of hiring, a lot of fundraising. So we're really happy to be doing this here in Paris at Station F because it's fantastic. We think the startup ecosystem in France is really going places, even with all these problems. So we're really excited.
Plenty to watch for in 2019. Stone Atwine from Eversen, thank you very much for joining us. François Baer from Fluigent as well, and David Keohane from the Financial Times. Thank you to you for watching. You can join this conversation online. You'll find us on Facebook at France24 Business, or you can tweet me as well at NewsStephen. Until next time, thanks for watching.